You don't have to be a star to raise the bar. We're all links in the chain. Yeah, not all the same. You don't have to be a star to raise the bar. We're all links in the chain. You don't have to be a star to raise the bar. We're all links in the chain.
Hey guys, it's Lilly May coming to you live from Las Vegas.
And it's LindaRose coming to you live from Maine.
I am so excited for today's episode. We have a lot of really fun things planned and some new announcements too and stuff. And we're going to be trying out some new things today. So I'm really excited. It's going to be great.
Yeah, and also sorry for the delay on the show. Both me and Renee are going through a huge winter storm right now, and I've lost power a few times already today, so I'm hoping to stay on for the show. We're going to be great. It's going to do good. And if the show for some reason does have to stop, we will do a pop-up to kind of finish it up.
Absolutely. Before we started the show, I wanted to go ahead and take a second to say happy birthday to our editor, EmEm, and I hope she has a great day today.
Yes, EmEm, for you guys who don't know, is my grandmother, who's also the gorgeous editor of Orchid Times. She makes a lot of this possible. Our interviews would not be as pretty without her. So make sure you guys all wish her a happy birthday.
Absolutely. So today we're going to be doing a discussion on the movie Moxie. This movie is so good. It was such a great one to watch. I had so much fun, and I'm excited to talk about it some with you guys.
Yeah, Moxie, I love the movie. When Lilly came up with this movie book thing segment, I knew from the moment she came up with it that Moxie was a movie that we're going to have to do. It's not a maybe, it's a have to, and we did it, and I'm so happy we did because it's about kids that are our age, which we'll get more into.
Absolutely, Moxie was a perfect pick. And today we are also going to be doing our movie discussion with our producer, Renee. So that's something so exciting. I'm really excited to do this.
Absolutely. So, Renee, do you want to come on and kind of talk with us?
Hello. Yes. Thank you for allowing me to come on screen, and thank you for introducing me to Moxie, because it's a movie I would have never discovered on my own, but I see it changing my life and helping to inspire and motivate me. And I think that's something that's so important, is that women, but really all of our allies as well, and all people who want to make a difference in the world, it's so important to stick together. And Moxie is all about the power of community, movement, and togetherness.
Absolutely. I loved all the themes and stuff in Moxie. I thought it was a really powerful movie. And it was totally one I wouldn't have watched either if Linda had suggested it. So thank you so much, LindaRose.
Yeah, luckily I discovered it because my Netflix recommendations are gold right now. Because like during quarantine and COVID, all I did was watch Netflix. And so now like all my Netflix recommendations, it says like movies and shows for you on Netflix, that little row. They're so golden, the best recommendations I've ever had, and that popped up. And the first time I watched it was with EmEm, and I like instantly fell in love with it, and it's a movie that I've continued to rewatch.
Absolutely. It's such a great movie. So to start a discussion, I want to talk a little bit about what Moxie is about. Moxie is a really powerful movie. It's about high school girls standing up to sexism at their school. Moxie talked about some really powerful topics, and I loved how they addressed a wide variety of issues too. Moxie talked about these topics, and I loved how they addressed the issues, and they made it relatable to all ages too, so females of all different ages could relate to the topics discussed.
Yeah, and a big topic that they did actually end up talking about, which I was a little shocked that they talk about it, that they did like mention it just because of the rating of the movie. I didn't think they were gonna go into it as they did, and I'm very happy that they did. A big subject that they entered was rape and sexual assault, and I was shocked in a good way when I first watched the movie and they entered that subject because I think it's such an important subject, but a subject that not a lot of movies and shows tap into.
Absolutely. And it was so empowering how they talked about it too. I really loved how they addressed the issues.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was good. It was a good movie.
They didn't shy away from some really hot button topics. Like you said, rape was in there. And also the way that they so bluntly and straightforwardly attacked that and showed the pain that something like that causes, and the equally amazing and horrible aspect of that, which is the silence and the isolation. So when somebody is attacked or oppressed in any way, the isolation becomes a corresponding factor that actually aggravates the initial assault on the person's entire body, soul, their medical. And I loved how they chose the popular girl. They could have chosen anyone as the screenwriters could have chosen anyone to be that victim, but they chose somebody that traditionally you would think of as being the perfect person. She's got everything together. There's nothing wrong in her life. And it just goes to show you can never judge a book by its cover, and you can never tell who's actually suffering in silence.
Absolutely. They were so empowering with how they brought up the topic, and just it was a very inspiring movie.
Yeah, and the popular girl, her name was Emma, and she was sorry, my phone just fell. She was raped, and she explained that she was raped in her bedroom, um, by the popular football player named Mitchell Wilson, who we'll probably get into a lot about his character in these questions. And I think that there's one thing that I just kind of do want to point out when we are talking about it is that the people that our judgments and our opinions are directly towards the characters, not towards the actors. An actor plays a character, and I think that some people get that confused sometimes with kind of relating them to their real life person. We're not like judging the actual person, not having any opinions about the actual actor. We're just having opinions about the characters too. And I just wanted to point that out because I think that that's something that a lot of people, especially on social media, get confused with.
Yeah, that's a super great point. For the next topic in our discussion, I wanted to talk a little bit about why we picked Moxie.
I suggested Moxie, and it's a big movie that I picked because of the age group that was portrayed in the movie. The age group was in a high school, and there was some older women figures as well, like a principal in there who was actually for her own personal reasons didn't really want to get into problems of the girls and kind of was more on the boys' side and didn't really want to attack the problems. As she said in the movie, it was a lot of work and paperwork that she didn't want to do. Which was such a strong character too. I think is a big reason why I picked that movie because it goes to show that not all women are for women empowerment and not all women are for using their voices. And I think even though she was an adult, I think that her character kind of portrays someone who's scared to use their voice or who's scared to actually write those paperwork and everything. Not because she doesn't want to, but just more because she's scared of the questions she'll be asked about it or how she'll have to attack the actual problem with the actual student.
Yeah, and also I really loved how in the movie they really showed how it's important not to let other people stop you from doing what you believe in, like speaking up and using your voice. There is going to be others on the way who try to silence you, but I loved how the girls in Moxie just never gave up even when they came across setbacks, and I think that's something we can all learn and take from them too.
Yeah, and I thought it was really cool to see how certain people were on the fence, in like Mike, the teacher, and some of the other, even Claudia at one point. And it just goes to show that the power of community and the people who are willing to take that first risk, to take the first steps, they're really bearing a lot. the brunt of the first sort of wave, because that's before anybody is aware and before anybody really wants to put their power and put their reputation on the line. It's really an important thing to have those first people to go out and lead the charge, so that the people who are on the fence and don't really want to rock the boat, they can slowly see everything happening, like at the beginning with the stars and hearts, and she goes there. It's like you're showing everybody that you're on board, and the more people that get on board, and this is why it's important to really speak up, is because when you're speaking up, at first it's going to be silent and nobody's going to want to come along. But as you progress, people are going to get bolder and bolder, and that's how the movement grows. And that's what the movie really showed it. And as it culminates with Vivian overcoming her own reticence to take her own power and to raise her voice, it all culminates with them standing out there, and she really just puts her entire self on the line, and you see everybody crowd around her, and it's just really moving.
100%. That's why Lucy was one of my favorite characters, because she was the first one to speak up even when other people didn't join her quite yet. She wasn't afraid to still speak up about some of the issues that she ran across, like speaking out on the sexism that she saw happening in the school, and she was the first one to come across that.
Yeah, and I think actually this is a great transition. Our next question that we wanted to kind of bring in was what is something that you learned from Moxie or that you want other people to learn? And Lucy was one of my favorite characters because in the movie, Vivian told her that she's kept her head down, and she didn't mean it in a mean way. She said if you kept your head down, Mitchell would move on to someone else. Mitchell was kind of the bully of the whole entire show, and she said that she was going to keep her head high and that she didn't really let Mitchell cross. And I think that's something that a lot of people are scared to do, is kind of, not let people step over them, or, not really kind of stand up for yourself. I think that's something that a lot of people are scared to do because of the outcome that could happen, like getting into a conflict with someone. But like I mentioned on a few episodes, that you can say what you need to say and be respectful about it and then just walk away, which is what Lucy did. And I admire her character a lot.
Yeah, 100%. I think that her character was really powerful, and especially with "I'm going to keep my head up," I think that was the perfect response in that scene, and it was just a really powerful and inspiring response. And I know that it can be really difficult to keep using your voice when other people try to bring you down, but I think that Moxie did an amazing job at showing that it's really important not to let other people silence your voice. Otherwise, you're never going to get to where you want to or make the change that you want to see in the world.
Yeah, and also to go back to LindaRose's point about sometimes you can't always detect who your ally or who your friend is going to be in a movement, because different people have different things that they're willing to put on the line. Different people have different motivations, strengths, weaknesses. They might have something going on where they just don't want to support that movement. And we do see that, unfortunately, that in every sort of movement to overcome oppression and inequality, sometimes it's the people that you think would be your strongest supporters, and they'll surprise you. And then somebody that you think might be really against what you're doing might surprise you and just come out of the woodwork and be your biggest supporter. So I think it also really teaches you the movie really does a great job of showing that not everything is just black and white, left and right. It shows that there are nuances, and also the progression and the journey, like with Claudia or others, to show that there's a progression of boldness and daring that happens over time. So maybe somebody needs to hear the voice of the movement not once, not twice, 10, 20 times before they get on board. And it's a lesson in persistence that you should continue to raise your voice. And even if you don't see progress happening on the time frame you expect, to have the hope that the right people will get on board at the right time.
Yes, totally. For the next topic tonight, I wanted to go ahead and talk some about a specific scene or quote that stands out.
I guess, there's so many. A big one that stands out to me is Seth, who was kind of Vivian's, he became Vivian's boyfriend in the movie. And he was huge on the whole movement of Moxie and everything. And he was the first one that found out that Vivian started Moxie, because he bumped into her in the hallway while she was putting the flyers in the bathroom. And he put the hearts and stars on their hand for their movement. He wore the tank top. And I feel like he was not only, and his character really portrayed that he was not even doing it to just impress Vivian, but he was also doing it because he genuinely cared. And I think that's something so important too, is that for both sides, that both genders and all genders, no matter what you go by, can support each other. And it's a huge thing that we do support each other, and it's not just all one-sided, and that we see both sides. And I think that's something that the movie really portrayed really nicely.
100%. It's really important that we all stick together, because the more people, the more voices together means the louder we can be. And I think that Moxie did a really good job at portraying that theme too. I know a scene that stood out to me while watching Moxie was when they were talking about the books that we read in school. I think this is a super important topic because female authors are very unrepresented in the school system, in the public school system and stuff. And we really need to read more about females in history and reading more books about females and they're written by females, because I think this is a really important topic. A lot of the books we read are outdated. So this is a topic that I think was really good to put in the movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if you guys know the show Ginny and Georgia, that's on Netflix, Ginny I think it was the first episode, attacked that, and she had an AP English class, and Ginny in the show is she's mixed. She has a white mom and a black dad, and her AP English teacher is extremely, extremely racist toward her and really didn't try and hide it. And she got the syllabus full of the books, which only one of them was written by a black author, and most of them were written by men. And in the middle of the class, she really attacked that problem and stood up to her teacher. And throughout the whole show and the new season 2, you see her standing up to that teacher, including a walkout that they did in the second show, leaving the class, because everyone was quite literally over that teacher, and I was too. Probably one of my least favorite characters in the TV show.
That's so empowering. I haven't seen that show yet, but it's on my watch list, so I'm gonna have to watch it soon.
Yeah. One scene that I really keep thinking about is early in Moxie when Mike, the male teacher, he is kind of being called upon to take a stand and support the women. And it's very clear that he has a good heart and that he probably inwardly supports their cause, but he's very reticent to put his job on the line. He does not want to offend anybody. And so he has this little speech where he's saying all the right things, like, hey, well, I agree with equality. And he just spits out all these vague statements that no one could disagree with, but he's afraid to take a stand. And I think that's something we've all been in that situation. I think that is a character that speaks to me. There's been so many times where, for whatever reason, I was in a crowd and I saw something wrong and somebody asked me to stand up and I just felt too weak, or I felt like I didn't want to offend anybody. And so I thought the movie really did a great job of painting all the different positions and the different journeys that people take in order to get to that great movement of, hey, I'm actually going to put myself on the line to do what's right. And that was really cool.
Yeah, totally. I know that's another really important topic they talked about a lot in Moxie, was that even if you're scared to speak up, it's really important too. I know it can be really scary speaking up for the first time, like doing Orchid Times. I was so nervous, but it's something as you do more, you get comfortable with. And again, that's why I think a really important theme in this movie was to never be afraid to use your voice and be loud.
Yeah, and I think that's especially why Claudia's character really, really stuck out to me, because I know that her mom, when the tank top thing happened, and she didn't express it to anybody, which also I wasn't shocked by, because a lot of people don't in high school now. A lot of teenagers, if something's going on at home, they won't express it to their friends or anything. And her mom wasn't comfortable with her wearing a tank top, and so she had to take it off. And it was a hard scene to watch too, to watch her and Vivian kind of seem like they were kind of separating a little bit because of Claudia seeming like on the outside seeming like she doesn't really support what's going on, but really she just seemed really uncomfortable with using her voice, and just I think that's why her character stuck out to me, because it was a lot like the teacher's character. She was more scared, but in reality she wanted to support. I think it's something that she didn't really grow up around, and something that she needed to be more open to, and she was willing to do that, and it turned out great for her in the end.
Yeah, and that's why Claudia and Vivian's friendship really stood out to me, because it really shows that there's many different ways to advocate for what you believe in, even if you're not comfortable or not to the point yet where you're comfortable with speaking out. You can still do stuff to advocate for what you believe in. Like, she registered the Moxie group as an official club.
Yeah, and she did take the blame for a few different things and ended up getting suspended from school, which was extremely, extremely, like, that really showed her character as, like, she cares. It's just something you're scared to do. And in that moment, you really show the growth of her character from the beginning to the end, where at the beginning she was scared to even really talk about it, and at the end she risked her school life and education to make sure that the movement keeps going.
Yeah, absolutely. And all the characters in this movie another thing that stood out to me was they had really great character development.
Huge, huge character development. And I think, honestly, the biggest character development would either be Claudia or Mr. Davies, because Mr. Davies was a teacher. At the end, he when they did the walkout, he was like rubbing his hands together, and then he showed that he had a star on his hand. And if you watch the movie, that was their first like big movement that they did with stars on your hands to show women empowerment.
Yeah, and that was like his little thing to show that he was on board, and I really loved that moment. I also love the theme about how the tank top thing happened. I love how they wove that in, because women's bodies have been so politicized and dominated. And I thought it was wonderful that they really pointed that out, that a woman being able to choose how she treats her body or shows or displays her body, that her body is not dangerous. There's nothing toxic about a woman's body. And it's not for men or quote unquote the establishment to choose what a woman is going to do with her own body. They don't do the same thing with males' bodies the way they do with females from a very early age. And that type of thing is so destructive with how women view their bodies. It really is something that's it's very disturbing that that's going on. And I don't think enough people talk about it. So it was very cool to me that Moxie took a stand on that particular issue.
Yeah, it was really empowering. I know me and LindaRose have talked about dress codes and stuff in the past, but I think they did a really good job of incorporating that into the movie. There was just so many different topics they talked about, and it's hard to list them all, but it was just a really wide and diverse movie, and I really loved it.
Yeah, they attacked a lot of different issues. And going on to the tank top thing, a lot of dress codes, especially in the movie, they show it, are directed, yes, towards women's bodies, but specifically more or less the boobs and the butt, is where the dress codes are strictly like you will get dress coded, have slightly a different chest size than somebody else, which did happen in the movie, and they sent a whole entire girl home just because of her chest size, which is so disappointing, because that's something that a girl can't control. Like, you are born with that. It's something a girl can't control. That's why last year we had our administration send out a very, very offensive and sexist like dress code, and the next day all the boys in our school showed up in tank tops and crop tops and everything, and because the ridiculous, like, a girl can't control the size of some of her body parts. Like, you can't control that. Something you're born with, and you can't control how big or small they are. And I think that's a lot of things that, with how my administration for my school is very male dominated, so it's a lot of girls now have like spoken out to the school board from our school, because like having males decide the dress code is something that I'm not having decide the dress code for women's bodies and girls' bodies in my school is something I'm not completely comfortable with, because they don't know, they haven't experienced what's like to be a girl in a school being dress coded, because you can't control the size of your chest or the size of your butt.
Absolutely, and it's really inspiring that the people at your school did take a stand on that too, because it's a rough issue, and it's something that needs to be addressed because a lot of other schools have the same type of dress codes too, and it really sucks. For our last topic tonight, I want to talk a little bit about how the movie's title reflects on the content in the movie. Renee, did you want to start on this one?
Yeah, so Moxie, I love it. You know, you could think about boldness and chutzpah and power and strength and someone who's willing to take a stand. And I thought it was so great because just by the very title, you know what they're going to get into. And it's about having that belief in yourself and also in your community or your movement that you are going to get something done. It's grit, it's the getting doneness. And that's what it means to me. And it's a word I don't hear a lot anymore. So I was really happy to see it coming back into the lexicon.
100%. Moxie also means like determination, and in Moxie, the girls were really determined to get their message across and not let anybody stop them. So I also think it was a really powerful name, especially because, as you said, it's not a word we hear very often. So it was really empowering to see it in there.
Very
And
much.
I think that yeah, Emma just pointed out in the comments I have a dog named Moxie. I do have a dog named Moxie. Um, I do think a big thing in that as well is Vivian's mom was Vivian had drive from Mitchell in school to do something, but Vivian's mom did so much protesting when she was a kid. They went to dinner and they said that they protested everything, and I think that was a good Vivian when her mom told her that. I think that was a big step in Vivian's life. As she said, kind of made Vivian know that she could do something and she could make a difference, and she did. And I think her mom was extremely proud of her when she did do something.
And I really love too how Moxie talks about how different generations advocated for women's rights, like how her mom advocated versus how she advocated. And I think that just made the movie really relatable for women of all ages.
Yeah, and they did a little concert thing for the Moxie group, and it was kids in the middle school singing the song Rebel Girl. And I loved that scene because it, like Lily just said, it shows the amount of age groups that they had. It wasn't just one single age group. It was all of them advocating for women's rights. So this movie was a great movie to pick out, and it's such a huge movie, and I recommend everybody that's watching right now to watch that movie because it is truly amazing, and you can learn so much about women empowerment if you're not quite sure about a topic and everything. It's definitely a great show or a great movie to understand why we are so adamant on making sure that women are equally represented and making sure that women are treated just as well and just as equally as men are, because there is an unbalance in that, and Moxie really shows the issues that women have to go through every day, as well as some of the issues that men have to go through as well, which I think is really good to advocate for this as well.
Yeah, 100%. We have Moxie linked in the description for anybody who wants to watch it. It's on Netflix. You guys can find it on there. It was such an empowering movie, and it's definitely one I'm going to rewatch sometime because it was so good.
Yeah, I loved it. I was so happy when we decided to do that.
Well, thank you so much, Renee, for coming on and talking with us about this. It was so much fun. And make sure you guys tune in next week because we're going to be having Renee on for our live Q&A segment for our 1-year anniversary. I'm going to go ahead and just take a second to tease that because I'm super excited for it. On our 1-year anniversary, we're going to, which is next week, we're going to be doing live Q&A in the comments. So usually what we do is we have you guys send in your Q&A questions beforehand, but this time we're going to be answering them live as they come in the comment section. I think this is going to be super fun and something new.
Yeah, and that episode, it's just going to be super chill, and it's going to be just kind of more of a fun episode because we are celebrating our anniversary of starting OT. So I'm very happy that we got this far, and I can't wait for you guys to come in on that episode and kind of, have a real live discussion with you guys, real live discussion with you guys.
Yeah, it's going to be so much fun. And I also want to go ahead and announce our book we're going to be reading for next month. The book we picked out is The Nightingale by Kristen Hannah. This book is for the older audience, but I'm super excited to read it with you guys. It's been on my to-read list for a while, and I'm just going to show the book really quick because it's so pretty. Look at the cover. It's amazing. I'm really
Hey,
excited to read it.
yeah, I'm excited to read that as well because it's a good book, and I mean I haven't read it, but the reviews I'm going with it's a good book. I'm confident saying that the reviews look amazing. I'm excited to read it.
Yeah. So I'm going to give a quick summary of the book for people who are interested in it. The Nightingale tells the story of two French sisters who resist the occupying Nazi forces during World War I by hiding Jewish children so they are not taken to concentration camps and by leading the escape of Allied pilots. While women empowerment isn't the leading topic of this book, it's really in there too because I know one of the main characters is a spy, and that was really unheard of for females to be spies in World War II. So I think this book is a really empowering one, and I'm so excited to read it with you guys.
Thank you guys so much for joining in. Our Moxie, if you haven't seen it, you can find it on Netflix, like Lily said. Please, if you can, watch it. It really, really shows just why we're so passionate about women empowerment, and that movie shows it extremely, extremely well. So if you can watch it, please, please do so. And even if you know people who are kind of resistant towards women empowerment or using their voice, I would totally suggest this movie to them as well because there's a lot of character growth, like we mentioned as well, and it can be good to kind of show people that it's okay to be scared, but it's also I feel like you also can't really hide. You have to overcome your fear, even if it is scary, and you have to stand up for yourself, which I know I struggled with, and OT has helped with that, and I think that's something everyone can do.
Absolutely. And we've been working on growing our TikTok page. So if you guys want to see some more Orchid Times content, make sure to go follow us on there. And also, if you don't already, follow Renee on TikTok. She's making amazing content on there, and I love her page so much.
Yes, and also we are like posting daily TikToks as well, so you always have good new content on there. Good new content. Hold on to the good part because it is amazing.
Absolutely. We're going to go ahead and show a quick trailer for our 1-year anniversary next week. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I've had a great time on here, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.